Okay, excellent. So it looks like everyone's hearing us okay. So welcome to our manifestation webinar, Awakening Your Innate Manifestation. So really good to see all of you here. So just type in the text chat, just quickly an update as to how you've gone, any particular manifestations that have happened, and let us know what's actually transpired. I had a wonderful one come through from Anna Evans, who actually came along to our Sunday webinar as well, and also came to our Dark Masters free one, which we did on Wednesday. And she just said she manifested. What she did was she actually put an amount of money as a donation on the Sunday into our webinar, which she just said. And I'd shared about putting an intention that what you put in, you get a tenfold return based on the law of the tithe. And she did that, and she immediately manifested 3 new clients this week. And so she's pretty happy at the moment. So she said she's very happy for me to share that with you. So the power of intention is pretty damn profound, and it excites me when I see people start to apply these principles and actually see them really work in your day-to-day life. So quickly share, just in the text chat, what you've actually had. Julie Wood says, money that's been owed to me has been paid, and my mother has had money owed to her paid, which is fantastic. That's great, Julie. Yeah, look, by about this week now, you start to hear more and more of these stories start to happen when we've done these courses before. And this is the 3rd time I've run this course. And the last 2 times, by about week 4 or 5, things started to really happen, and more people started sharing unusual events. In the last course, for example, we had one lady get her back healed. Another lady had a debt literally miraculously erased. Like the bank, she owed 100 grand to the bank on a personal loan, and just suddenly the bank rang her the next day after a manifestation and waived it, just for no reason, without her even doing anything other than applying for just basically getting some hardship. So anyone else? Because it's really important to acknowledge even the small things, because that's when you get bigger things. And the way to understand this is a bit like if you've got kids or friends. And let's say that you do little things for your kids or friends and they don't appreciate it. I'm sure you would agree, you don't really start desiring to actually help them or give them any more. So any small things, like James says, that a small payment made to me that was overdue. That's brilliant. That's great, James. I give thanks every day for the small little things that happen to me. Max, after the Dark Masters webinar, I was intuitively guided to a particular clearing on myself. During this, I was visited by the Christ and by Babaji and experienced an intense release. Nearly fainted and saw fractals and vibrations for a moment and picked up. Today, I picked up 2 new commission leads to work. Max, I love it. It's exactly, yeah. You're creating the intention, you're following the intuitive signals and just going with it. And this is one of the biggest keys that I'll be sharing today, about those little keys and those little clues, and just running with them when they come. Like, I can remember when I was doing some manifestations and it seemed at first nothing was happening. But then I noticed I was getting all these clues and meeting all these people who are very good at business systems. And that's when I realized that what the masters were saying to me is, we're not going to bring in the next level of cash flow and abundance to your business until your systems have improved. And we've been having all kinds of amazing manifestations the last 2 months around systems, like meeting people and having people just led to our business to help us and doing stuff with it. And we're just seeing amazing things happening. We're discovering things going on that we weren't realizing that was going on and fixing up. And it's just really great. But so the point is, little things that are happening, just to acknowledging them. Christine Evans, we gave someone some yabbies and got 2 packets of beautiful fresh in return. Yeah, that's great. What we're going to start doing now is, particularly this week now, normally it starts happening by this week, and by the next couple of weeks, things start to really come together. So, Christine Norby, I set the intention to manifest more peace, love, and joy into my life. I had been anxious about money and finances and experiencing them. We had an auric clearing with William yesterday, a large mountain of blockage to my 2nd chakra on money and finance was dealt with 98%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once you start removing the fear, it becomes very easy. And I can remember for me, I used to get intense fear when I'd have cash flow challenges. And I can remember when I learned to overcome this and trust in the manifestation. And I was amazed at what started happening. I noticed that even when I had cash flow challenges, it just didn't bother me. Like, I got to the place where it just didn't honestly bother me, because I realized that I was always provided for. And I've even been seeing it the last few months in situations where we've been challenged to make some greater commitments to some things in our business that were quite expensive. So I just committed to them, and immediately things started happening. Like, we started getting things come to us and opportunities open up and everything like that. So, Max, when I started doing this course, I got slammed with all kinds of bills and debts. Going through the course, over 60% cleared now. That's brilliant, absolutely, because you got the intention going, Max. I love it. Robert says, when you say manifesting, should we be saying the Tribeca code every day? Is it an everyday thing or once-off thing? Look, that's actually a really good question, Robert, and one that I had, and I'm sure is in a lot of people's minds. And the honest truth on that one is that it's been a bit of a fine balance, and today's lesson, I think, will answer that question substantially, because there's a certain part of manifestation where you'll find you keep getting led to clear, and sometimes you'll be doing manifestations every day, and then you'll get a sense to stop and let go, because your subconscious has got to integrate it. So there comes a point when you just sense and know you've got it, and if you continue to keep doing it, if anything, it's like your way of creating doubt. Because when you keep on doing something over and over, what you're really saying is, I don't trust it's happened yet. So the secret to manifestation is knowing that it's been done, that as soon as you complete it, it's done. Sometimes you need to go through it again as a reminder, or just to basically clear new level blockages. But understand that once you feel like it's done, you just got to trust that it is done. Okay, anyone else? Excellent. Starting to see how it all works with testimonies from Christine. Nolan had a really challenging week this week, being really unfocused. So I asked Mum to just be for clearing last night, and a much clearer, a more successful night trading last night. Yeah, look, and sometimes too, Nolene, that, yeah, I mean, clearing, I'll be honest with you, I would say what I'm teaching you today, I can 100% tell you I live this in my life. I do clearings so often and manifestations so often now, I just lose track of how often I'm doing it. And every morning we go and do ritual manifestation, and we put things in place. I've got to the point now where manifestation's almost becoming not just once a day, but multiple times a day. And eventually you get to the point where the Tribeca code is actually just in you. You just know it's there, and you just do a quick imagination in your mind, and you see it and you know it's there. And even this morning, I had very low energy for a brief period. So I just tuned in and I cleared the source of it. And what I did was, yeah, every morning, Christine, I do it every single morning. And believe you me, it's why my life just keeps getting better and better, because I know that if I don't do it, the mass mind, the mass consciousness, and the people around me will determine my manifestations and my physical circumstances, because this is a key with manifestation. If you're not doing active manifestations and taking control of your hologram, then your hologram will be decided by someone else or by your past templates. It's just inevitable. So let's just say you're not doing it for a few days. Inevitably, your old programming starts to come back. The old fears come back. You might read something on Facebook which gets you scared, or you might start looking at your bank accounts. So the moment you start looking at what is in the physical now, rather than seeing in the 4D, 5D, what it is that you desire to be in, and as Neville Goddard says, be in that new realm of consciousness in the now that you desire to be, you will basically keep manifesting more of the old. So Neville Goddard puts it really clearly in his book, Feeling is a Secret. He says you actually need to be feeling in the new state of being as if it's now. So Mitchell said, I'm finding a much stronger balance between manifestation, surrender, and action on my intuition. Exactly. You couldn't have summarized it better, Mitch. I love it. Julie did protection and clearing on friends, neighbours before they had to go to the tribunal about the neighbour's fence, and it was made in favour of my friend and neighbour, and the dark forces of the other neighbour were removed. Exactly. Yep, that's what starts happening. Love it. Absolutely love it. So some really good stuff starting to come through here. And Max says, what do you think about clearing meta levels of programming that automatically begin to manifest what you want as a default habit? I think you're absolutely on the mark, to be frank, Max, and it's a classic statement of somebody who's done a bit of psychedelics and used to all the state realms, and you start to see after a while how these things really do work. And the truth is we are multi-layered, and I remember a really great master of the unconscious mind who years ago taught me a lot. And I remember we would sit there and talk, and he, because he was a business consultant and he was very, very abundant, had a very successful business and had money coming in left, right and center. And he told me, he goes, most people have so many levels of, in their unconscious, they're not even aware about it. So he said they're going along in their life, and he said, and then suddenly, one day, like an accident happens, or suddenly one day they find out they've lost all their money, or they suddenly find out that they've had a lawsuit hit them. And he said the truth is that's probably like 4 or 5 layers down in the unconscious, but they've had so many layers on by denial and by ignoring things and not addressing things. So he said the secret is to get back to the place where you strip all your layers until you get to the point where you're back to basically the bare bones. And Psalm 18 puts it really beautifully when you read in the Bible, where it says it actually unlayers everything until it says then the foundations of the earth were uncovered. It's about verse 7 or 8. So the earth talking about you, the foundations are uncovered. In other words, everything is opened up. It's why Jesus said, unless you become like a little child, you can't inherit the kingdom of heaven. And a little child just doesn't have these layers. A little child doesn't have these kind of filters. Like you meet a 6-year-old child or 4-year-old child, they'll just look at you and they'll just say it is, like you like this food, ooh, yuck, you know, and what do you think of that person? Ooh, man, they're fat, or ooh, man, you know, they'll just say things exactly as there is. Whereas we've all been trained to put so many layers and dressings on us that we've stopped being the real you, and whoever the real you is has long been locked away in a prison. And the more I'm discovering the real me, and it's been blowing my mind. William's the same. William told me yesterday, he goes, Dad, I'm so sensitive. He said, I'm just such a sensitive guy. I'm realizing that. He said, you know, I cry all the time now, and I'm having these deep experiences, and I'm not this hard, aggressive guy like I thought I was 6 months ago. And I said, no, you're not, because he's unraveling all of his layers, because he does daily clearings. This guy is daily clearing, daily manifesting, like constantly, non-stop. And being children like they are, and teenagers, they just don't have the filters. They don't think about it. They just do it. Christine says in the auric clearing, we're stripping back more and more layers like an onion. Exactly. That's why I love auric clearing. I would say that manifestation and auric clearing are my 2 major things I do in my personal life daily. Auric clearing I'm doing constantly, just so you know. I'm doing this sometimes twice a day. Now I'm at the point where I just imagine the Tribeca code, or what's called the auric calibration code, and do a quick clearing on myself. This morning when I had low energy, I actually did a more advanced clearing, which I'll teach you guys at some stage, where I did it and then I went back in time and kept going back in the layers of time in the hologram until I worked out the exact time where it happened. And I worked out for this morning at around about 3 o'clock, but there was a specific Dark Master attack that happened to me, and they specifically used the Sons of Dark Master Belial. And as soon as I did that, I went and cleared it. I saw layers pushing back from me, and immediately I'd actually been feeling a sore throat coming on. So I just went ahead and I saw a spear was in my throat, cleared it straight out, and yeah, you can hear me now. My throat's perfectly fine. So feeling great. And then I was given a message that says, go drink lots of water and don't eat food for most of the day. Robert says, where did we learn about auric clearing? Yeah, look, I've done a couple of courses on auric clearing, Robert. So you can talk afterwards if you're curious, because we can either get you a recorded one, which you can get involved in, or yeah, we're going to be doing another one soon anyway, because it's one of our most popular. And in my view, it's probably the most important, and the one which I use pretty much daily, as do my kids. So yeah, look, I just really felt to start and just kind of set some foundations, because so far, as you can see, we've been looking at the laws of manifestation, a deeper look at the science behind and why it works, turning water into wine, how to access higher brain states, and things like that. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Turning water into wine, how to access higher brain states, and a bit more introduction to manifestation and how it actually works. Then the next probably 5 weeks, we'll be going into some really exciting stuff where we actually start to work it practically, use energy reading, tax minimization and protection, and actually energetically and increasing income. So ultimately, everything is energy, and energy can be transformed, and that's the whole nature and basis of manifestation, that you're basically literally doing this and increasing yourself and clearing energy. So know that anything going on in your life or restricting you is merely an energetic outplay. So just some quick revision now of what we've done to date before we hit the ground running. So today we'll go for about an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes, just so you know. It'll be finished by, definitely be finished by latest 1:45 in the afternoon, possibly a bit earlier. So tax audits, negative money experience, investment blockages or sabotage that are happening in your life, speeding fines that come across your way. All of these ultimately are coming from what's called your oversoul or higher self, basically opening these up for you, and basically as a direct result of your hologram. And the more you get into this and you realize, and I had a very profound experience yesterday when I actually clearly saw my oversoul like laughing at me. And it was quite funny. And my oversoul was saying, you know, many of these things happening to you, I'm doing this. He said, I'm like the stage director. I'm having a bit of fun here. You know, I'm here using you as my incarnation to clear out my karma and to clear out karma and actually get this planet sorted out. And it was quite funny. And I was having a little bit of a chuckle about the whole thing. And I realized more and more how it's so true. We do have a higher self, higher oversoul, multi-dimensional being, but it's guiding us through these experiences to basically clear things out, teach us to master this 3D realm so we can ascend and basically take control. Those of you who know that the worst thing in life is to give up on something and not basically be victorious in something in your life, you feel a sense of failure. So this is really what we're on this planet for, to conquer this 3D realm and learn to really become successful in all areas of our life and in what I call a very difficult place. So we've looked at the science behind manifestation over recent weeks, and we've noticed especially that science and religion were once seen as very conflicting, and science tended to hate religion and religion tended to hate science. Whereas the truth is, scientists are now accepting more and more there is this quantum esoteric realm behind all matter. And let me just fix this up because I don't quite know how his name was spelled incorrectly, but basically Amit Goswami is his name. This is a really interesting scientist to read, and who basically did a whole big thesis on the quantum realm. And basically he came out with the fact that there is an esoteric quantum spiritual realm which governs all things. Dr. Joe Dispenza, right now as we speak, runs workshops which basically go ahead and teach people how to go into a deep state and access the quantum realm. And I have friends who've done it, who just say they've seen miracles happen as they've gone into those deep realms and seeing things about what's coming for their life and what they need to do. I can tell you right now that what I'm doing with the Awakening Within and all these webinars, this directly happened, as many of you know, when I had an encounter with masters and angels and higher level ascended beings, or ETs, back in May. And they clearly actually told me my path, and when I kept saying I was scared, what they eventually showed me was they said, just do everything, and they gave me an exact business plan and told me to do exactly what I'd learned from a certain master. They even told me what courses to offer, and they told me very specifically what to do. And so I just did what they told me, and I was amazed. But a lot of it I got from higher level beings and masters in his higher quantum realm. I have a friend who manifested $30 million in 2 years in cryptocurrencies. $30 million. He went from a guy who really didn't have a lot of money, who was working in a normal job, like making good money as a commission salesman, to where he made 30 million. And of course, he's now basically in all kinds of new business ventures, doing really, really well and really prospering. And what's very interesting about this guy is he's putting a heap of, he's telling me about different people he's been meeting, because he's now got heavily into this realm, into this kind of teaching. And I've taught him a few things, and he actually was saying to me when I showed him a lot of this, he goes, it actually makes sense, because he said a few years ago when cryptos came out, he just said he'd been pondering how to go to the next level in his life financially. And he just said he looked at cryptos and he said all he knew was, he said, something tells me that this is the way to go. He said, I researched everything I could about it. And he said, then I just decided, he said, you know what? I just know this is going to work for me. And he said he just knew. And he said, even when he first went at one stage, he lost 90% of his portfolio. He just said he looked at it and thought, you know what? If I lose it all, I lose it all. But I'd rather do that than give up. He said, and next minute they just went gangbusters, and he ended up with $30 million. And what was interesting was he's met many people since who all admitted, who are very successful crypto millionaires. He's met people who run super highly successful companies that have just taken off in the last couple of years, and all of them admitted that they do higher level altered state consciousness work around manifestation and about going to accessing the quantum realm. A lot of them use psychedelics to do it, and a lot of them just use deep level meditation. So universally, they all admitted they do that. So what I'm teaching you today is not just something which is some weird theory. This is actually what's happening, what scientists are now finding works. Renowned spiritual scientific masters and physicists are now saying outright there is a quantum realm and a higher level realm which governs matter, and that matter is actually governed by the quantum realm, not the other way around. And many and pretty much successful billionaires and that are all challenging this higher realm. Now, for those of you who are on the Dark Masters webinar know, unfortunately, there's some people that actually are channeling Dark Masters, but many of them are basically tapped into that higher realm and are specifically dealing with Dark Masters. But the point is, all of them, without fail, the one thing they have in common are acknowledging that accessing these higher quantum realms and these deeper dimensions is where they're getting their answers and getting their solutions to bring them to abundance and power on the planet. So religion and spirituality is also seeing a fundamental evolution and shift. And the truth is, a bit like lawyers, churches are just way behind. Like lawyers still, have not, for example, I actually was laughing. I told someone the other day, I said, if I was still a lawyer, I said, I reckon I can make a fortune by setting up an online law firm, because I said, it's about the only industry that still hasn't worked out yet. Lawyers, doctors, and accountants, that actually online is the future, and they're still operating from the physical premise. And I said, I'd love to set up an online law firm where people just go on and basically type in and have a chat bot, but it's all speaking to real lawyers and automated bots. I said it would do really well. And churches are the same. I mean, churches are just still basically, years behind the 8 ball. And of course, have lost touch with people, are dropping fast because they're not really owning the fact that these higher realms and still caught in what I call, basically religious fundamental stuff, rather than actually teaching the higher level stuff and accessing these higher realms. Jesus, for example, himself, you read, he actually went, it was quite profound. I actually had this discussion with a minister recently, and I couldn't believe my eyes, because he was trying to deny to me that Jesus had ever gone to India or learned in mystical schools. He's saying, oh no, he was the Son of God. He just got shown direct. And I'm like, well, so what was he doing between ages 12 and 30? Well, no one really knows, but he certainly wouldn't have done any of that. Whereas pretty much going to India, Tibet, and many of these places, he went and studied and learned with some of the great metaphysical masters and spiritual teachers about accessing the quantum realm and doing the miraculous. He just, of course, because he was the Son of God, he was able to, and he had a pure soul, he was able to access realms very quickly. And as it says in the Bible, they were astonished at his wisdom. The Gnostic teaching, for example, talks about this guy called Isha, I-S-H-A, who turned up, who was a great master, who moved in great miracles, and how he came and learnt with them for a while. So understand that there's a lot of congruencies. In the next 20 years, 10 to 20 years, you will find that there will be more and more congruency between science and religion. That will just start to happen. And scientists will more and more accept the truth of the higher realms, and religions will finally start to do it. It's one of the reasons why we're doing the Awakening Within, because we can see. And I'm actually doing exactly what Ken Wilber said in the Religion of Tomorrow, who wrote a big thesis on religions and spirituality and growth of consciousness. And he actually said there was a big opening in the world right now for what he calls, conscious religions or ascension churches that can actually help people grow in states of consciousness and deal with shadows, and not just have religious dogma, which is what he calls the lower state of consciousness around what's called the fourth tier, or around about the first tier, fourth stage. And basically what Wilber says, following a guy called Gray's model, is there's 16 stages of consciousness which you can go through, and which no one on the planet yet is at the higher stages. But he says that many churches are still operating around about the fourth stage. And right now there's a shift to move into what's called the 6 to 8 stages, and then eventually into what's called the tier 2 consciousness. That's something that we go into some of the more advanced stuff, and I don't want to lose everyone for now. To simplify what I'm saying here is that more and more teachers and physicists and spiritual leaders are realizing there are stages in growth of consciousness which are need to be followed specifically to get pure and healthy growth. A bit like learning to crawl and then walk and things like that. So that was the conclusions that we came up with. Quantum realm was real, interconnectedness of all things, space and time don't actually exist, things don't exist until they observe, alternate timelines and realities. So a strong possibility and makes sense. And these are all things I could just about, each of these ones I could do a whole webinar on themselves. One of the things I've been learning recently with a quantum teacher who's very, very brilliant, and she actually was showing me and teaching me how to actually, that when you say space and time don't exist, she said there actually is no such thing as the past. And she's saying that everything is what's called a simultaneous incarnation. So once something is past, it's no longer in the now. And so she says, when you still remain trapped in the past, all you're doing is living a simultaneous incarnation at the same time. And she goes, that's why so many people are living an almost schizophrenic way of existence, because they're still living a simultaneous incarnation that's playing out from a past trauma they haven't let go of, while still trying to live in the now. And if you feel into that, that is profound. And my sense is one or two of you will get that straight away and go far out. So if that's you, just make a comment in the chat. But basically, when you're trapped in the past thinking or belief, you're actually living a simultaneous incarnation right now, which is playing out. So it's like playing 2 movies or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 movies at the same time. So if you're feeling a bit lost and all over the place, you're trapped in a bit of a simultaneous loop, so to speak. So this is why we do auric clearings, by the way, because auric clearings can clear these past simultaneous incarnations. We're actually clearing them, because auric clearing removes it out of your hologram. It just removes the auric attachments. So, and keeping you back in the now. This is why remote viewing is so effective, because remote viewing is looking at a probable future which is playing out based on your current hologram or on the collective consciousness. So, of course, you can change your probable future, and that's why remote viewing isn't 100% accurate. So when we remote view sports games or remote view, say, financial markets, which I do regularly, I don't get 100% accuracy, but if you're getting more than 50% accuracy on a yes or no, you're doing well. And I would say to you, I'm getting at least 2 out of every 3 right, and in some things I'm getting between 70 to 80% right. So the truth is with remote viewing is you start to view the probable future, the likely future, which is actually happening. So Mitchell says, I get it completely. The reason you can go back and restructure your memories is because clear the emotional charge and affects our current experience of time. Exactly, Mitch. I'm actually excited because I feel that I've got quite a conscious group here in this training, which is meaning that we're going in deeper than I normally go in. And I'm feeling that you guys are ready for this stuff. And if you get what I'm saying here today, it will take your manifestation to a whole new level. You will just go far out. I really can train my whole fucking hologram, excuse the French, and you will laugh. And almost anything that happens to you, you'll just sit there and go, well, I am totally accountable for this, And look, the truth is as well, my consciousness is continuing to grow. So from the last time I did this course 8 months ago, my consciousness has grown significantly since then. So of course, every time I do this, of course, you continue to grow and transform. So things don't exist until observed. That's the one that at the moment I'm meditating on heavily, because I know when I 100% get that, I will be able to literally manifest things physically like Sri Baba. That's when you can teleport. That's when you can be able to change water into wine, and when you can start changing, say, like a wall into a liquid form, and you can just walk through walls like Jesus did and many of the Indian masters do today, or walk on water. Once you truly realize that things do not exist until observed. So when you think you're seeing the water, you're not. You're just seeing what you believe to be the water. And if you could truly change and see that as a solid object, you could walk on water. If you looked at that wall and saw that what you believe to be solid, only because of the collective hologram belief, was only an illusion, you can walk through walls, as Indian yogis can do today. So exciting stuff. And the truth is, I'd love to tell you I've mastered that. And if I had, I'd be walking through walls right now. All I can tell you is that I'm starting to get it. And this is one of my next things I'm looking at doing a lot more into, and looking into this area and mastering this. And that leads into what we're going to now, into a very important lesson, turning water into wine. So Max says we are projecting the belief in the law of physics out of our template. Exactly, spot on. The laws of physics are there, but we're projecting them out, and we're learning that the laws of physics are different to what we've been taught. It's probably more accurate, Max. Like, we've been taught physics means that matter is matter, but it's not. The true laws of physics are quantum, so I'll probably slightly correct you there. We're not projecting them out. We're redefining the laws of physics, that we're realizing they're a lot more flexible and more fluid and more holographic than we thought them to be. Rather than being cut and dried, where we've been living in what's called Einsteinian theory, where most physics is taught based on what Einstein taught, and Einstein himself admitted towards the end of his life that he hadn't got it completely right, that a lot of it he got right, but he started to realize the quantum realm was more real than he thought. Whereas most of his life, he argued that the physical matter preceded the quantum realm or consciousness. So what we're doing now is moving away from pure Einstein relativity and moving into more what's called quantum physics or quantum theory. So what I'm going to get you to do now is just, before we start this, just really sit down and take a breath. I'm just going to go fill up my water, and we're going to recommence in a minute. That'll just give you time to integrate what we've taught. Okay, so Max says this is going to be good. You betcha. Especially with that kind of a hologram, Max. Believe you me, Max, you're very open to all this, and I wouldn't be surprised if after this course you're I had a guy on one of my course, on my first course a couple of years ago that was very similar to you. And this guy went from being completely trapped in things he wasn't enjoying to where he was trading successfully and running a successful astrology practice and everything, because he just did everything that we taught here and just took it really seriously. So like any course, the more you put into this, the more you'll get out of it. And this is stuff that I live in my life, and I'll tell you now. And what I'm about to teach now, water into wine, is based on what Jesus Christ taught, and not just Jesus Christ, but Joseph Murphy actually teaches a whole teaching on this, turning water into wine, who wrote the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. So this is straight from a mixture of Joseph Murphy and from the scripture. So Joseph Murphy basically quotes the whole scripture in John 2, verses 1 to 10, where Jesus turned water into wine. And we're about to do what's called an expository expounding of what this teaches. And in the third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus said unto him, They have no wine. Jesus said to her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 gallons apiece. Jesus saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water, and they fill them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, Draw out now and bear unto the governor of the feast, and they bore it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water which was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, Every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. So what Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, and Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar and many of these great yogis and teachers have done is they would take the Bible, knowing that the Bible was an incredible ascension book with higher activation sequencing and codes, and teach the metaphysics. Many of you probably don't know, for example, Yogananda wrote a whole book called The Second Coming of Christ. And he just goes through the whole Gospels of the Bible and teaches the metaphysics of the hidden meaning of what Jesus was saying. And it's profound. It completely smashes what the churches teach on it, by the way. But it makes so much sense about what's called the manifesting of the Christ consciousness of incarnation within us. It's quite profound. So this is what we're about to do here, introduce some of you who've never seen this before into what's called metaphysical activation sequencing and how this actually works. So, and the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now on this one, please feel free to send questions as we're doing this, to interrupt. Normally I don't like that and I wait till the end, but this is going to be quite deep. So you may find you need to clarify things. So I'm quite happy for you to throw questions at me as we're doing this. So the marriage in Cana of Galilee, as Joseph Murphy says, seeking a union or oneness with the infinite intelligence. Any kind of marriage is always talking about a union or oneness, as you know. That's what the word means, marriage to bind. So it's to bind together. So when you have a marriage of a man and a woman, you're binding them together in the masculine and the feminine. So what this is talking about is a divine marriage, a marriage which is talked about also in Isaiah 62, verse 4 in the King James Bible, where they talk about your name shall be called Beulah and your land shall be married, which is talking about a oneness with the divine intelligence, where you connect with source, with the masters, with the higher mind, with the higher self, with Christ, with your higher self, whichever word you choose to put it. So in other words, for any kind of manifestation, you first have to have the oneness with source and the connection with the higher mind or the higher self. Your own head and your own logical thoughts can't manifest crap. And I don't think it takes much to convince any of you of that. So logic, and I'll tell you one thing, for those of you who will be learning remote viewing with me, you'll certainly learn this lesson fast. You will learn the hard way what happens when you move out of higher mind and into what's called and into head. I find that whenever I've had some I went through an experience for some weeks ago where I got like a lot wrong in a row in my remote viewing, and it was simply because I moved into my head and back into my fear. And as soon as I went back to source and was back connected with source and not thinking about it, and I noticed straight away my accuracy is high. So the point is, you cannot manifest anything while you're thinking in terms of the logical human mind. It's only by connecting with the infinite intelligence or the higher mind or with source. The mother of Jesus, mother is an emotional feminine voice. Jesus, the higher reasoning. So you've got two different voices there, which are always happening. The emotional feminine voice and the higher reasoning. And this is what goes back to Adam and Eve, and many kind of go through this and say it's a myth and fairy tale. One way of looking at that is, although it is actually describing what's called the Adam-Kadmon cloning experiment, which is spoken about in the Keys of Enoch, where the higher godlike beings were created, which then unfortunately fell into human form, and that's why a lot of this whole, what's called redeeming the species from the corruption is all about. The whole Adam-Kadmon cloning experiment, the Adam and Eve also talks about what's called the higher divine mind, the masculine mind, and the feminine mind, and what tended to happen and how the feminine, the power of the feminine, I find women, for example, get a lot, as a general rule, do particularly well with any kind of healing or manifestation because they don't think so much. They just go into the feminine and just do and just kind of follow the instruction. And that's actually how the feminine. According to Joseph Murphy, the subconscious is the feminine, the conscious is the masculine. The subconscious just does exactly what it's told. So pure feminine energy just follows exactly what it's told by masculine. That's pure feminine. This is why, for example, like women on the planet are partly masculine, partly feminine. Men are partly masculine, partly feminine. If a man was 100% masculine, he wouldn't feel hardly a thing, and he would just be logical, giving advice. If a woman was entirely feminine, she'd be feeling, she'd be totally connected with source, but she would kind of have no mind of her own. So this is why the two work very, very well together, the masculine and feminine, and come together working very well within us. So this is why the feminine can very, very deeply shift, generally much easier than the masculine as a rule. Very sensitive men connected with their feminine side tend to also do very well with this kind of course. It's why I know with William he's very good at it, because William is masculine, but he's very connected with his feminine sensitive side. I'm like that. I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I notice Mitch and Max are doing very well. I know they're both very, sensitive men who are musicians and do other stuff. So the more you're connected with your feminine side as a man, the more you can open up to your manifestation side. And equally for a woman, learning to connect with the divine masculine and with the inner masculine when you need it is also can be very effective for you in manifestation. So the marriage in Cana, the mother, and the higher reasoning, the Christ consciousness. So Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. So Joseph Murphy, Jesus was called, calling the higher reasoning way of thinking. So in other words, the marriage, the union with the oneness, so Jesus was called, Christ, calling the higher reasoning, the higher way of thinking, to manifest whatever you want. And his disciples, in other words, the servants of Jesus, which is who? The servant, the subconscious, is a servant of the conscious mind. And it's really important to get that. Now, this is where most people are manifesting horrible things in their life because they don't realize the subconscious is the ultimate feminine, whereas the conscious is the ultimate masculine. And if the conscious is allowed to bully the subconscious, that's when you get into trouble. It's exactly like, think of it, like if you've got a marriage where a man's bullying his wife or domestic violence, we all know that's not exactly going to be a pleasant union. What is a really good union is where the masculine is leading the feminine, but the feminine is leading the masculine in the way of the heart and the spiritual. And for example, with Sammy and I, we have a fantastic relationship because she loves my masculine leadership as a man, but I love her feminine leadership in my heart and opening my higher mind as a woman. And she does do that with me. And so the subconscious is the ultimate sort of feminine and is just a servant of the conscious and brings things into existence. So that's why when your conscious mind bullies the subconscious just shuts off or just does literally what it's told. So, for example, when you say, I really don't want to be hurt in this relationship, The subconscious, which is the ultimate feminine, only feels the feeling like hurt in a relationship, and goes, and then it starts basically fearing it and going, okay, and starts to make that happen, or starts to automatically bring in steps to protect you from hurt. Or, I always lose money in investments. I don't know why. I've got to stop losing money in investments. Your subconscious goes, oh no, losing money in investments. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So this is why it's so important to get control of your thoughts and your speech. So let's just go back over this, because this is, like I said, quite deep. There is a marriage in Cana seeking, so for manifestation, the oneness of infinite intelligence, which is why we do our codes to set you in and lock you in. The mother, the emotional feminine voice, the Jesus voice, the higher reasoning, the Christ consciousness. Jesus was called, which means you're calling in the higher marriage. You need to call him in. That's why we always call in Jesus Christ, and why we call him in. Welcome, Anna. Disciples, the servants of subconscious is a servant of the conscious. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and listen carefully on what I'm going to share here, because this is profound, and if you can get this, this will take you to a new level. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, they have no wine. So what was she doing? So wine is the manifestation, the outcome you desire, which tastes good. So this is the thing you desire to manifest. But the mother of Jesus, in other words, that feminine voice, looked at the physical, was afraid, and said, there is no wine. So rather than looking at faith, looked at the outward appearances. So any of you ever had that before? When you go to manifest, say, $10,000, and then that voice speaks into your mind, you don't have a good job. Your business doesn't make that kind of money. You don't have experience in what you're doing. Every time you've tried to do that, you've always failed. So in other words, the mother of Jesus, that what's called ultimate 100% feminine voice, just automatically just says what it sees. Well, they have no wine. So, and it sounds so logical, because it's the truth, isn't it? If you look at the physical realm, she spoke the truth. There's no lie what she said. She spoke the truth. This, by the way, if you actually look at going into the metaphysical and the esoteric meaning of Adam and Eve, it's exactly what happened there too. What Eve strictly did was correct. When the serpent spoke to Eve and said, if you eat of this fruit, you won't die, but you'll become as God, that was the actual truth. But all it did was what's called Eve into duality. Whereas previously it said they were naked and not ashamed. They didn't know good and evil. They were just a pure being connected to source. They didn't have a sense of good and evil. Whereas the moment that Eve ate the fruit of the tree, she then knew good and evil, which means she now became like God. And in a way, it's a bit like you trying to protect your kids. And when your 12-year-old kid wants to have sex and you're really trying to protect them until they're ready, that's what, when you read some of the deeper metaphysical, that's what's actually happening. But by Eve doing that, a species that was still young and not yet ready for that kind of godlike knowledge and was never meant to have that, then basically had that knowledge and had to be cast down into the lower dimensions with that knowledge. And that's why to this day we're still dealing with duality and learning to move outside of that good and evil duality and have it playing out all the time on this planet. That's a bit more profound, and I don't want to get people too lost, but some of you may get what I'm saying there. The point is that the serpent's voice was strictly correct. Strictly correct, that they would become as God. The point was there was, and so here, the mother of Jesus said they have no wine. That is strictly correct. That's strictly correct. The point is it actually helping the situation? No, because the desired manifestation was wine. The truth is, if the mother of Jesus was allowed to run this whole situation, they never would have had the wine. They would have run out. So Mitch says he commanded that voice to leave him yesterday. Exactly. You have to do that. It's like when I had soreness in my joints, and which the medical system would label arthritis. I can remember a few years ago, and I can remember when that voice would come into me saying, "You have this," I just immediately cancel it out, and I said, "My body is already healing," and that's because I knew this stuff. I'd been taught this stuff. Mitchell said he saw a gremlin creature with a wicked smile leave my being. Exactly. Now look at what Jesus did, and Mitch just gave us kind of cheated on the test. You know, he told us what to do before I actually taught it. But anyway, Mitch, that's okay. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, I like giving you shit, Mitch. Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. Now, this is really profound. Woman, what have I to do with thee? Now, many people look at this from a literal mind going, God, he spoke disrespectfully. But what's he saying? He's saying he instantly negated that voice because he knew full well he couldn't do a miracle if that thought was allowed to sit in the energy and create a hologram in the minds of the people. So what she was doing was looking at him saying, there is no wine. They have no wine. Now, what could Jesus have done? Imagine Jesus had said, well, they don't, but, you know, you can manifest it, you know, if you really believe. What would have happened? He hasn't actually negated the voice. It's very interesting. And every time I read Jesus, I must admit, I stop reading and go, gosh, I'm still a bit of a pussy. I do. Every time I start to think I'm becoming a great spiritual leader or teacher and I read Jesus, I'm like, gosh, I'm still a bit of a pussy sometimes. You know, I basically, I realize how much I don't know. He never said to her or tried to be nice to her and said, yeah, I know, and then quietly went off to do it. He just said, woman, what have I to do with you? So he instantly negated that voice. So let's say you're creating a manifestation for $10,000 a month. Max, I love it, Max. It's a spiritual alpha behavior. It's alpha, the ultimate alpha male behavior, or spiritual alpha, exactly. So, or alpha female. Like, what have I to do with you? I am not interested. I am not fucking interested. So when that voice says to you, when you say, I am healed and my body is coming into full health, and that voice says, well, hang on a sec. How's that going to happen? That's not going to happen. You say, what do I have to do with you? What do I have to do with you? That's the voice. What have I to do with you? I have no fucking interest in your voice. And I'm using swearing deliberately to really make the point. That's how you talk. I know when I started healing in my joints, I just would mentally immediately smash that voice and said, I have nothing to do with you. You are completely false. You are a lie. I don't listen to fucking liars. I know that my body is already recovering and helping. I may not see it in the physical right now. I may still feel pain, but I know it's an illusion. I know it's a trick because I know everything is a hologram. I know everything I see is a fucking hologram. I know that what seems to be a wall is just liquid. What seems to be a sea is actually solid. Everything is just a big whole fucking illusion. And I'm saying it strong deliberately so you get this energy into you that says no, 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 no. So if right now you're having financial challenges, you're not sitting there going like, oh, I have no money. No, 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 no. What do I have to do with you? You can fucking piss off. Or your business partner says to you, oh, we got cash flow challenges. No, 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 no. What do I have to do with you? My hour is not yet come. Now, why? Yeah, James, everyone's saying they love it. Exactly. Isn't it great? Mine hour is not yet come. The time has not yet come for manifestation. In other words, there's always, and no, I'm going to change that word. Because Joseph Murphy says this, but I'm going to change that. There's usually a gap between faith, a promise, and the actual manifestation in the 3D physical realm. And in fact, in a way, there's always a gap because it may be a 5-second gap or 10-second gap, but it's always, or usually, or always a gap between faith and a promise and the actual manifestation in the 3D physical realm. Because remember, time and space is not real. It's an illusion. So it may be in a physical linear time. It may take 3 months. It may take 6 months. Keep in mind, it's an illusion. There is no such thing as time anyway. It doesn't actually matter. The point is in the now, in this 5D realm, in the higher realms, you know you are healed. And the more you can get that, that's when you become like Jesus. And you start seeing instant miracles. You start seeing the instant, quick miracles the moment you're able to do that, when you're actually able to realize instantly that it's done. The more you know that. That's how Reinhard Bonnke, one of the world's great healers, one of my guys, I study him and do stuff a lot. Bonky has over 1 million people turn up at his crusades in Nigeria, and he will get 1,000 blind people into a group together, and he'll rebuke the spirit of blindness over them and command it to leave, and tell them they're all healed, and all the blind people get healed instantly. Nolene, epiphany moment. I've been listening to his voice this week. Shit, right, taking control. Exactly. You've been getting your ass kicked by it, Nolene. You've been listening to the mother of Jesus, haven't you? Exactly. So Max saying amazing. It is, isn't it? Isn't it great stuff? So, and the reason I'm swearing again, yes, because it's the energy of what I'm saying that goes into you. If I talk like a little Mick guy saying, you just have to really just not let this voice affect you. I sound like a dipshit for starters, but secondly, you're not actually going to get it. You get it by just being like, smash, you hit it. Anna, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think all of you wouldn't like me being like that. It'd be like for you women, the guy coming up to you and going, hi, Nolene. I think you're really nice. Can I go on a date with you, please? And give you some flowers and a teddy bear. You'd probably just about vomit. So the women are laughing. So understand that when you're speaking to that feminine voice, that vine, understand the power of that feminine voice in you is what brings the miracles. Because you'll see here that the mother of Jesus is what brings the miracles. It's that divine feminine that brings it, but the divine feminine has to be commanded. The divine feminine has to be absolutely commanded and told what to do. Because if you don't command, it's very literal. So, like I mentioned before, if you say, I don't want to be sick, the divine feminine goes, oh, okay, you want to be sick. It's very literal. And any of you men who've had wives who are very feminine or partners feminine will know what I mean. Like you might say to your wife about thinking, oh, I really don't feel like going out tonight. Oh, so you don't want to go out tonight. Or where there's not, or you might just say, I don't feel like going to, let's say I don't feel like going to grill tonight. Oh, so you don't want to go out tonight. No, I wasn't saying that. I just said I don't feel like going to grill tonight. It's the same thing. You've got to be very specific in your commands. So mine hour is not yet come. There's usually a gap. And in the book of Hebrews, it says faith and patience inherit the promises. By the way, this is why the Keys of Enoch said the religious and political powers have done everything possible to stop some of the ancient scrolls, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the UFO stuff coming up, and the Holy Bible from becoming popular, and they've watered the Bible. There's no spiritual book that's been more attacked that I've seen in the world than the Bible. If you dare to try and alter the Quran and write some new silly translation, you would be hammered, you'd be probably killed. Yet the Bible has millions of translations out now that are stupid, ridiculous, and absolutely kill all the meaning. And some of you who went to my higher workshop showed how all the new translations have changed the original spells and incantations that are written in the original Bible. Because the Bible is just a full activation sequence that's been proven now by great Russian mathematicians and former atheists to be a complete perfect sequencing, which even formerly non-religious scientists have admitted has to have come from higher level God. So it's a whole activation sequence. So faith and patience inherit the promises. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. In other words, it's very easy for you to say, I have very little money in the bank. Yeah, well done. You're just basically saying what you already see. You're listening to the mother of Jesus, that feminine voice. You negate it. No, I have plenty of money in the bank. I have more money than I can see. Every time I'm at the beach, for example, or most times I'm at the beach, I basically look at the water and I see what's called the ships of Tarshish, because there's an activation sequence in Isaiah 60 that calls in the ships of Tarshish laden with gold and silver and abundance. And I just do that. I remember I did that for 3 months solid in 2001, and I manifested this literal investment that was called the golden goose that lays the golden egg. And every day I called in the gold and silver as an activation sequence. And I literally manifested a miracle investment that created so much money for 2 years I didn't have to work and helped me recover from health. So this stuff I'm teaching you today can literally change your life like you'd never believe possible if you take this seriously and realize that every day you are manifesting, whether you like it or not. When you're walking around being negative, or like Nolene this week decided that she would have some fun and do some negative manifestations because she thought the mother of Jesus was a good voice to listen to. And yeah, Nolene, you need some shit. So, listening to that voice. Whereas this, as you can see, you need to smash this voice and realize that there is a time that manifestation to manifest. And physical time is irrelevant. It really is. It doesn't exist. It could be a month, could be a year, could be 5 years. I was given the most clearest vision in 1995 of what I was going to be doing. I saw it all. And the problem is back then, because I was so like, I expected it to happen next year. It took 24 years to happen. What I'm seeing now happen in this work is what I was shown 24 years ago, literally. But now it's starting to happen because the time had not yet come. And if I knew what I knew now, I would have just continued to be thankful daily and keep calling it in, and it would have happened sooner. So the point is, it's by faith and patience inherit the promises. Max says that Psalm 68 is one of the most powerful clearings I've come across. That's interesting. Yeah, I know that one really well, Max. My copies of Keys of Enoch arrived today. Yep. Yeah, wow. Knowledge reminded. Yeah, Christine, I love the ships of Tarshish laden with gold and silver. Yeah, let's just do a quick intermission and I'll show you this here. Let me show you this one. For those of you who are into activation sequences right now and wanted some bonus content from this course, what you didn't expect, here we go. A little clue for you guys as well in business. Always over-deliver. Whatever you promise your clients, always seek to give them more than you promise them. Because even though it might, in the short term, mean the business takes a bit more time to get up and running or move to the next level, long term, you'll develop a great name. And a good name is better than gold and silver, as is in Proverbs. See what it says here? It says, surely the owl shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish thirst to bring you sons from afar with silver and their gold with them. This is one of my favorite activations ones. Another one too, I say regularly. I've been using this one all year, the Awakening Within. By the way, you've seen how fast this work's grown. Like in May, there was no Awakening Within. 9 months later, we have a massive group happening in 9 months. This is one of the scriptures, just to give you another manifestation one that I was using. So, behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. So I was saying that there may be darkness around the earth, and I even was saying the worse the economy gets, the more I will grow in my light, and the greater my work will go. In other words, the worse the economy gets, the better I get. So the worse the world gets, the better I'm going to be. That's what I keep saying. And the Gentiles, which means nations, the people around, shall come to your light, and kings or governments to the brightness. I know governments will, I know that. I speak this regularly every day of the Awakening Within. Governments and kings will be coming to us. You'll see it. They will be coming to us for guidance. We'll become the Awakening Within, City Awakening will be where governments of Perth and others will be coming to us, because as the world hits more darkness, as economic times challenge, which they're all admitting are coming, and they're frightened, they'll be coming to us and we'll be giving them light. That's what we're speaking every day over our work. Lift up your eyes around about you and see, all these gathered themselves together and come to you. Your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters. I've spoken this constantly over the Awakening Within. So not surprisingly, you see how our work keeps growing, our courses keep growing. We speak this daily. For those of you like Christine Norby, the Watchman of the Wall, these are the kind of things to speak daily over you and over our work. Because you see that as a little clue for those of you like Christine Norby and Lexi who do intercession and higher level spiritual activation work. That's why it says in Psalm 122, activation, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Those will prosper who love you. And so when you speak prosperity over a higher work and type to it, you bring more prosperity for yourself, as Anna Evans found out this week, where she tithed on Sunday and put some money into our work to help us and create intention for a 10-fold increase. And so not surprisingly, she manifested 3 new clients. And to be honest, I would have been very surprised if Anna hadn't had that this week. I would have been very surprised, because whenever I've had people specifically give offerings gifts into our work and without intention, I've seen people who are broke car salesmen get the biggest sale of their life. And it's nothing to do with me or to do with our work or anything great about me. It's to do with the principle of what you're doing. Lift up your eyes round about and see, all these gathered together and come to you. Your sons shall come from afar. Then you will see and flow together. Your heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted to you. The abundance of the sea. So that's why every morning when we do our activations, when we're around Perth, we go down to the sea and we call it in from the sea. We actually physically go to the sea. It's why high-level dark masters and druids actually specifically live on the sea, because they know this stuff is literal. The multitudes of camels shall come to you. The dromedaries of Midian and Ephah, all they from Sheba. They shall bring gold and incense. So I call this all the time, regularly, over our work. I'm curious, who's seeing some possibilities from these? Because I'm serious. You start doing this, you will see it. I'm telling you. Put this to the test. Absolutely do it. You know, you've got nothing to lose. Yeah, let God arise, let his enemies be scattered, let all them that flee before him. Yeah, I know. I remember this one, Max. This is one we've done a lot. The Lord gave the word, great was the company. Yeah, which verses particularly, Max, do you actually find speak to you? But yes, this whole big one here, I use this one a lot. So this is one of the ones that I use regularly, that when I felt like I'm under oppression, yeah, when I've actually felt like my mind being attacked or feeling really tired or like dark energy around me, I use this one. I also use Psalm 27. Yeah, first view and the last view. Yeah, wow. I'll just show you a couple of others actually. Just for those of you who are interested in high level activation, I'm probably jumping ahead, but this is one of my ones I use when I'm feeling negative energy around me. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemies and foes, come upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. So though a host shall encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though a wall may rise against me, in this I will be confident. Then it says, from the time of trouble he will hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle he shall hide me. He shall set me upon a rock. And now shall my head be lifted up above my enemies around about me. So I would speak this. Years ago, when I literally was suffering depression, I literally got myself out of severe depression just by using these activations. When back in 1990s, when if you were depressed, you were considered to be an idiot and something wrong with you as a man. So no one would help you. Churches told you just to get over it. Psychology was seen as like a taboo thing. So I literally cured myself of depression using these psalms. You know, that's how powerful these activations actually are. Yeah, Max lifted teen depression. Yeah, my cousin Max, when he was 17, he had a chronic fear of the dark. He couldn't sleep at night without his light on. And one day, he went to bed at night. He said, I've had enough. And he spoke these activations, and he spoke some activations over himself. And he just said, and he turned the light off. And he said, I refuse to turn this light on. He said the fear that gripped him, he's rolling around on the floor in agony and fear, but he's speaking the light language out and praying. He said suddenly, he just fell asleep and he woke up and he said it never came back. He broke the fear that night by doing this. I remember having, this is being really honest, a severe addiction to porn. And, you know, I don't have a problem with people who do it now and again to help their whatever, but I had a pretty bad addiction when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I broke that addiction without any psychological help using these activations. Literally broke that and completely smashed it. Within a year, was a different guy. Everyone around me couldn't believe the change in me just by using these activations. You can see this as well in Psalm 91. Here's another one for you as well, which you can say. 1,000 shall fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because people have asked me, why did you fear walking down dark alleys at night, or walking into dark places, or into King's Cross, or into dangerous nightclubs? I said, because I said of this scripture. Since I was young, I've spoken this over myself. So I literally don't. I walk in places and I've had guys look at me aggressively and I just looked at them and go, you know what, you can't touch me. And I've known it in my heart. And then they back off and often smile at me. So it's quite profound. So anyway, I felt to share those with you because this all relates to this thing here. You need to negate that voice. And if speaking to it straight away, you cancel it out. You know, sometimes you'll feel led to do these activations and speak these things over yourself and do this. And you'll be amazed. If you did this for 21 days solid, I remember going on a 21-day word fast, I call it, years ago, where I refused to watch any TV, look at a phone, apart from the basic, do anything other than really high-level activations and doing this for 21 days. I remember after 21 days, I couldn't believe what happened to me. My only issue I had, I felt so much peace, so much power. I'd manifested so many good things in my life that I kind of felt bored. And back then I didn't have a higher purpose. So I ended up regressing because I literally was bored. I didn't have any issues in my life. I had no dramas. I had no problems. They were all gone. Everything was gone. People I had issues with were sorted. So what I've had to learn since was actually start to how to get a higher purpose. So when I clear things, I've got another focus, because otherwise the problem is you clear yourself. And Joyce Meyer taught this. She's a great Bible teacher in America. She said when she first got cleared, for a whole month she was bored, so she just watched TV and did other things because she had no issues in her life anymore. Christine says life-changing. Anna Evans is saying how it's all been lifting as she's been listening, and same with Rochelle. Yeah, it does, because this is light language. This is like higher level light language that the keys of Enoch says. So this is the key. There is usually a gap between faith and patience, a promise, and the actual manifestation in the 3D realm. So, very important to negate that and realize there's a gap. Now, then his mother said to the servants, whatever he says to you, do it. So now that he's negated the voice, the divine feminine, the subconscious, that's literal, straight away just goes, do it. Whatever he says to you, do it. Knowing goes, I'm getting it. So now doubts, fears, conscious mind is being calmed by the inner strength and certainty. So that fear. And those of you who are very feminine know what I'm talking about. Like Sammy will admit that. She's a very feminine girl. And Sammy often just gets into fear and anxiety. And I just say, no, not interested. Like she'll start getting anxious about something. And I'll just hit her hard with it. And she goes, okay. Then she goes, yep, let's just do this. And she's an amazing manifester. Yeah, Max says, this is awesome. Yeah, exactly. So now you've calmed it. Like you've just taken command. Says, what do I have to do with you? So whatever he says, do it. By overcoming doubt, the complex cease, and all your inner thoughts and voice and faculties are in alignment, and things start to happen. James, light bulb moment. Exactly. You've now taken command. Whatever he says to you, do it. And that's what you desire your subconscious to be saying. So then when you say to your subconscious, I'm manifesting $10,000 as of now, and I'm doing this. Now, this is, and then your subconscious goes, whatever he says to you, do it. Now, keep in mind, another little catch I'll give you here, that when you're doing it, if you're just doing it for your own personal gain, you kind of are in a no-win situation, because the truth is, if you really did it, you can manifest it, but then the issue is you get into bad habits and open yourself out. So notice Jesus was doing it for a higher purpose and to help others. He didn't get the wine just so he could become abundant and rich and gloat over people. He did this because people didn't have any wine. So imagine for you, you're manifesting 10 grand a month suddenly because you're like, you know what, I desire to make sure I'm building up a good inheritance for my kids. I'm desiring to make sure that I'm abundantly providing for all of my family, and and best for myself, and I'm able to really help the higher works. You know, I get embarrassed, for example, being involved in great spiritual works and giving not very much. I desire to give much more. When you start having those kind of motivations behind you, or desiring to help your children see your great example and then use it for their good and things like that, or for others' good, that's when you then you remove what's called any inner critic. So notice the process here. It's actually very exact. It works exactly as it says. Mine hour is not yet come. So for those of you who desire to manifest financial abundance, understand that is the will of the Father for you. For you to be abundantly provided for is the will of the Father. If any of you have lack, understand one thing. There's no situation whatsoever that you'll be able to conjure up which can justify you being broke. Source desires you to prosper. So there's no question. You can read that. And if you don't believe that, or if you're unconscious, I'll give you one other light language to help you see that here. This is one of the ones we speak. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners. In other words, keeps away from evil and keeps away from things that are unaligned with his path. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, the higher law, not some kind of weird book, but this kind of light language, higher laws, higher spiritual laws. On his law does he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water that brings forth his fruit in season. His leaf shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. Whatever he does shall prosper. So there you go. Does it include finances? You bet. Does it include your physical health? You bet. Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that fears the Lord, but fears the higher laws. Joseph Murphy says the Lord is talking about the higher multidimensional Father, or what he calls the ultimate light being, or what he calls fears the higher laws, or your higher intelligence. But the light in his commandments, his seed shall be mighty on earth. In other words, his kids will be mighty. You'll all see how my kids are becoming mighty. incredible teenagers, you know, like William, Edward running a whole group of 5,500 people awakening with him. He's going to see his football coach, he and James today, and told him that he wants to be a captain and be a leader. James is telling him that he wants to step up and take the best player in the team's place because he's left the team. So in other words, because they've read these scriptures and say, we're mighty on the earth. In other words, we plan to be the best players in our team. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endures forever. If you're not getting tingling all over like Anna is by now, inspired, there's something seriously wrong with you. But I'm sure you are. Blessed is everyone that fears the Lord, that walks in his ways. He shall eat the labor of your hands. Happy shall you be. It shall be well with you. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine by the sides of your house, your children like olive plants. So for men who've got a partner, that's what you be speaking over him. I speak that daily, as does my kids. Who thinks that Sammy's life is prospering right now? My partner. Who thinks she's prospering? The short answer is it'd be pretty hard for her not to. My kids, like olive plants around the table. Why? Because we speak this over them daily. So women, you definitely desire a man who's speaking this kind of stuff over you. And men, you definitely desire to be speaking this over women. So you can see what I mean here. This is the kind of stuff that is going to literally take your life to that whole new level. So exciting to hear. So whatever he says, do it. So this is where now you start to actually do it. Now here's why. See how I was doing all that? This leads into part 6. So 6 water pots of stone are the 6 different faculties of the conscious mind, according to Joseph Murphy. So what they did was they got 6 water pots of stone ready to fill them up, okay? So what happened here was 2 or 3 gallons each. And the Bible says that by 2 or 3 witnesses, everything will establish. So the 2 and the 3 is always a powerful sequence to establish things, okay? So the 2 and the 3. So if you ever see 2s and 3s coming up a lot when you're manifesting, it means you're getting signals telling you you're on track, like multiple 2s or multiple 3s, 2 or the 3, especially 2 and the 3 together. If you ever get, say, 4 2s and 4 3s together, know that you just completely manifested it. So now what happens is, so what's happened today, you've negated the negative mind, you know it's going to take a process, you've been it now commands to be done, you come into alignment, and now you start to prepare. This is where you start to take action. So this is the action stage. So this is where you can do things like clean out your crap. So in other words, clear things out by clearing, doing daily clearings, retraining of your mind. In other words, daily doing manifestation, daily reminding yourself, daily giving thanks it's already been done, daily reading these life activation sequences over yourself I'm showing you. This is now what you do in 6. And Jesus said, fill the water pot with water, and they fill them up to the brim. So Joseph Murphy said, so now you're filling it up. How do you fill it up? By daily activating yourself. Saturate yourself. Saturate your mind. Margaret Court, the great tennis player, in her book, War of Winning Words, who's a very strong, teacher of his stuff, she says, like, she won Wimbledon, built a successful church, built great wealth. She just said, you saturate yourself, is what she said. You saturate yourself with words and activations until you cannot help but speak life and positivity and speak power. Like, if anyone speaks negative to you, you can't help yourself. You say, what are you talking about? Prosperity is mine. If you look at your bank account with no money, you laugh and go, this is great. I'm glad I got no money because I'm about to have so much, I'm having so much coming in already. I love this test. This is great. Come on, keep it coming. This is exciting. So I get excited now when I have tests hit us. I'm going, oh, I get excited now. So go, oh, this is awesome. We're opening up to a new level. You can't help yourself because you're no longer seeing in the physical. You're seeing in the higher realms. You know what you have. You know who you are. You know what you're stepping into. You cannot help yourself. So fill to the brim. Assumption is you must act as if it's already taken place with no doubt in the heart, emotionally in feeling and in your physical actions. So you live it. So start living. One thing, I remember when my business went broke 9 years ago, and I literally did. I had debts everywhere and virtually no money. Do you know what I did the next day? I went out with Grace, who, at the time I was married to, we were separating, but we were still friends. It was a very good separation. It was quite amicable. I said to her, let's just go out to one of our favourite cafes and have a great meal together. She was, really? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, because the abundance is already coming back. It's all going to work out. said, even though I'm devastated, I'm shattered, I'm feeling emotionally full of grief and pain, I said, I'm clearing it all out because I know it's all an illusion. So I said, let's just do it. I said, the moment we give room for poverty thinking in our life, we're fucked. And I can remember in 2003 when I had literally no money, had one child and had two on the way. And I remember walking into Centrelink. And seriously, I was thinking of, well, because we decided that maybe just for a short time we'll do that till I get on my feet. And as I was in there, I felt so uncomfortable. And after 10 minutes, I just walked out. And Grace said, what happened? I just said, nah, not doing it. I said, the moment I do that, I'm submitting myself to a system and I'm no longer believing anymore. I said, I'd rather I struggle like fuck and work this out than rely on that. I said, we're going to make this work. I said, we will make this work. I said, I don't know how it's going to work, but I said, we will make this work. I said, I believe in Christ. I believe in the Masters. I said, I know that I can do this. And I said, I not only know that I can do it, I know I am doing it. And I think it was within about 2 months that the miracle started happening. I had 2 months, a few more challenges. Before I knew it, I had ridiculously well-paying money with complete freedom of time, working minimal hours and pulling in lots of money. And I was learning to trade and I was running my spiritual work within 6 months. So the point is, you live as if you've already had it happen to you. Actually, it's already taken place with no doubt in your heart. And then he said to me, draw out now and bear to the governor of the feast. So this is the command. So once you've done everything correctly, so you smash the voice of doubt, number one. Number two, the higher mind has said, whatever he says to do it. In other words, there's alignment of the mind and faculties. You start taking the action and daily clear out the negative crap and take physical action where you do whatever you can, no matter how small, to bring the manifestation into being. You fill it up with water by daily saturating it, by higher level mind manifestations and speaking well into your mind, refusing, I might add, to let anyone be around you, smashing. Like this one here also says, if anyone around you is negative, kick them out. As soon as someone would get negative about Jesus' miracle, he'd kick them out. Wouldn't let them be in the room. Even people crying over sick people, he wouldn't let them around. And then fill it up. Act as if you've already got it. And then he said, draw to the governor of the feast. And he said to them, draw out now. So now what happens is the higher mind, the Jesus voice says, okay, everything's in alignment now. Make it happen now, this minute. Bring to the governor of the feast. That is the conscious mind ultimately ruling what you manifest in the physical world, and they bore it. So now the subconscious mind, the mother of Jesus, does exactly what she's told. The subconscious mind works with the cycles of Jesus, start to do all the work, and they bring it in. So in other words, they bring to the governor of the feast. So in other words, bring it to the governor of the feast. In other words, bring it to the physical world. Bring it out into that physical world. So the higher mind is now commanding it, and the subconscious mind will now just act on as told without question. And when the governor of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine and knew not whence it was, but the servants knew, in other words, the unconscious mind knew, in other words, the higher mind knew, and keep in mind, the governor of the feast is a metaphysical type for the external world, the people around you, the external world. So the external world has no idea how it happened. In other words, the conscious mind has no idea how it happened. So the external people around you, and even your own conscious mind going, look, how did that happen? And I'm sure you've had this happen. How did I get healed? Or in my case, many years ago, how did I get this investment to happen? With it recently, I'm just going to myself, how is it that 9 months ago, I was kind of trapped in this business, which I was making good money from, but not fully fulfilled in, to where here I have now going this work, which is my dream. And it says, the governor of the feast, having no idea how it happened, it says, he called the bridegroom, in other words, testify, sharing the power of the works, and said to him, every man at the beginning brings the good wine, in other words, brings out the best wine first, and then waits everyone's drunk and gives them the shitty wine, but you kept all the best wine until now. In other words, what he's saying is that he points out the fear of scarcity, lacking conscious awareness, because in other words, he's saying that most people live in scarcity. They think we better use the good stuff now just in case. But what he's saying is that the best results come with a manifestation when you already know you're so abundant that you'll have plenty more until the end. So who would agree that that's one of the most profound, exciting teachings that you'll possibly ever get in this area? Who's enjoyed this? It's pretty profound. I could feel light bulbs going everywhere. This is the kind of recording that you desire to listen to a few times, because you get this stuff. I'm telling you. Yeah, big Robert saying, and that's yet honestly, Michelle, Robert, Christine, if you do this daily, you'll get this. I'm telling you, you will just not believe what happens in your life. You'll be, the only issue you have is that in 3 months from now, you'll be so prospering and such in a good state of mind and in such a good state of peace. You will have to, your next step will be, well, what do I do now? My life is flowing so smoothly. You'll need bigger challenges and a bigger purpose. Yeah, Emily, exactly. Yeah, you'll actually find that you won't be fulfilled where you're at. You'll be needing bigger challenges because you will just grow so much. So Max laughed. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that we're going to discuss, I was going to discuss a lot more today, but because of time, I'm not going to. I'll cover this one more next week, is altered brain state. All I'm just going to say on that for now is, yeah, Anna Evans, oh my God, I just manifested the spiritual retreat. Exactly. The truth is, you know that you already have it. That's the whole secret, Anna. Just know that you have it and smash the thought that's saying you don't. Just know that you don't. Do you know, like, I'll give you an example of how even the small things, how powerful this stuff is. I remember 4 months ago, I was sitting there I was in a deep state with the masters, and I honestly told them, I said, guys, I said, I know I'm a great spiritual teacher in terms of teaching people. I know I'm really good at sales and marketing, but I said, I'm a terrible business owner. I said, I'm not very good at managing staff. I said, my implementation organization is terrible. I said, in all honesty, I said, I need help. I said, if I can't get help, I really would rather not do business and you do something else with me. I just said, so I was very humble. So, and then as I said that, I just felt them saying to me, well, ask us for what you need. I said, I need resources. I need people. I need people to come and help me out. I need you to lead people to me without me finding them. So they said, done. So they said, do you know that you have it? And I said, yes. And I did. I got to a stage where I knew it. And I started giving daily thanks. So I have all the people, all the resources I need. I don't know how it's going to work out, but it is. Do you know, like, there's things like I even said the other day, I thought, man, I just need to really separate out wealth-safe billing from City Awakening now, because City Awakening needs to be its own work. Next day, I'm in a call with one of our CRM experts who's working with Sammy, and they come to me and they say, yeah, we really feel we've got to separate wealth-safe and City Awakening. Are you okay with us setting that new system up? I'm like, yeah. And this has been the story of my life the last 4 months. Things I've been thinking about just coming to me. Guys coming to me in my business who I've contracted and say, you need to do this, and they're sorting it out for me. So I'm watching my whole business sort out. We're really not doing much at all about it. If anything, working less than I've worked in years, because I need to spend more time in prayer and meditation than ever before, and I'm just seeing it get more and more prosperous. That's what starts happening. In fact, in the book of Amos, it says in the Bible, it says that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. And it said the day will come when the plowman shall overtake the reaper and the treader of wine, him that does grapes. And to those of you in farming knows what that means. It means that there's so much abundance in the harvest that you're still working out the old harvest before the new harvest starts having to be sowed. So in other words, you're still sorting out the old harvest while you start to plant for the new harvest, which is a sign of ridiculously high abundance where the crops are crazy good. And that's an activation sequence. So for those of you who desire another juicy one, and I know we've got a few hungry people here, so I'm hitting you with some really nice, big, juicy little stuff. It says here, the days come that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that sows seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and the hills shall melt. So yeah, there will just be so much abundance that you won't know what to do with it, is what it's basically saying. So I'm sure some of you wouldn't mind that problem. So the altered brain states we'll discuss more next week, because that's a really important part of manifestation. And for now, all I'm going to do is just refresh on manifestation and finish off with us doing something. So you may remember that you've got the 5 steps of manifestation, which was to create your intention, command, clear blockages, and all that. So all we're going to do now is we're going to do this. I'm just going to go straight to the Tribeca code, and we're going to do that today. So Nolan is big plans. Absolutely, Nolan. Go for crazy. Go for something ridiculous. And just know that whatever help you need will come to you. Just go crazy. Just think of something absolutely ridiculous. That's my sense to tell you. Just think of something that's so silly but you know that there's no way in a million years you could do it that yourself, that you just would have no chance, because there's something else which I'm actually going to read before we do this activation. And I read this today and I pissed myself laughing. It was like the Father gave me a bit of shit today and all my kids, and I love what he said here. And some of you this will speak to. It's pretty funny, actually. It says, I've declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth. I did them suddenly, and they came to pass. In other words, I declared these things, and then they all happened. This is manifestation happening. And it says, because I know that you're obstinate, and your neck is an iron sinew. And it says, I even from the beginning showed you this before it came to pass, lest you should say, my idols have done this. In other words, he's actually saying, I'm telling you what's going to come to pass in your life. And because if I don't, you're stubborn enough and stupid enough to think it was all you and that you were the clever one. So it's kind of like the higher mind, the source, the Father giving you some shit. So in other words, make your manifestations like really beyond your comfort zone. Something where you just go, you know what? So when it happens, you'll just go, you know what? There's no way I could have done that in myself. And you'll be giving thanks to God. You'll be giving thanks to the higher masters. You'll be giving thanks to Christ and saying, you know what? I didn't quite understand all this before fully. I wasn't sure if I fully believed, but now I know that, yeah, there's no way in a pink fit. I can remember when I manifested that ridiculous investment. That was when I really go, yeah, there's no way I could have done that. Because at the time I was in terrible health. I couldn't even work because my health was a wreck. And here I was having abundant money without working. So it's really amazing stuff. So what I'm looking for you to do now is take a look at this Tribeca code and breathe in deeply through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. And breathe out through the mouth for 8 counts. And really focus your attention on your manifestation. I can feel a real presence here right now. So just keep breathing in for 4 and be grateful for your manifestation and just know you have it. And we're going to do this in the now. We're not going to put a date. We're just going to do this in the now, whatever it is. If it's 10,000 a month, 5,000 a month, instant healing, just give it in the now and know that it's done. It is commanded by the laws of the golden liquid realms, the chemical powers, and by the name and the power of Jesus Christ, and by his word and by his blood, that we manifest the very thing that we've asked to do instantly in all levels and all dimensions and all incarnations now. Aham brahmasmi ta'eja intadoi elijatef. Oh, I can feel this, everyone. I don't know who can feel this. Just type a Y if you're feeling this. There's an incredible joy and presence here of that's happening in us here right now. There's a sense of faith that I've never felt in a group before. I'm just loving this. I'm so excited. And just keep focused on this Tribeca code. Feel the joy, because it's the joy that also brings the laughter and brings the manifestation. Just let the joy come up. For some of you, you can't help smiling. You almost want to laugh and just feel the gladness, because it's the joy that opens your heart and attracts it, and attracts release and deliverance and clearing. It is commanded that this Tribeca code be used to clear and release all blockages, all wounds, all grief, all pain, all its occupants, anything fractured off simultaneous incarnations or simultaneous incarnations happening on each and every level in the way of the manifestation for each and every person now. I just saw a whole heap of stuff clear off people, man. A whole lot more. Command us for the name of Christ, and by the power of Babaji, and by the power of Christ, and through the office of the Christ. And a holy doolies, absolutely, yeah. Okay, just share your experiences before we finish off. Take a sip of water. James, this is an event. Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? Okay, my turn to swear. Nolan, fuck, huge. Max, you're right about the laughter. Exactly. I know, something huge lifted out and I burst into tears. Big tingles, Robert. Feel like I'm walking on clouds. Yeah, I love it. Love it, Natasha. Man, I'm in a childlike laughter. Yeah, I am too, Mitch. I'm trying to stop myself laughing. Paul feels high. Yeah. Yeah, I've had this happen to me. I remember when this happened to me years ago, I got so filled with power. I kept laughing and giggling and walking around for ages like a kid. And I walked out completely released. Rochelle, feel that massive release, happiness and smiling. So now what you just got to do is the next stage of manifestation. Just know that it's done. Just go out today and just give thanks and just start doing these activations. I'll actually show you all something. This is another activation that we've just been doing over ourselves lately. So I'm just feeling to share generously with what we've been doing, our little trade secrets. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, Zion is a symbol for heavenly, or enlightened, ascended people, an ascended city. So this is like ascended, higher level, higher dimensional people. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Then they said among the heathen, which means people around us, the Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. James, when you say the activation, speaking, repeating them daily. Yeah, well, James, we do it actively every morning. We start the day by doing it. We go down to the beach and do it. But during the day, we're constantly speaking it as well. Because I guarantee you, if you're not, you'll be speaking something and it won't be necessarily what you desire, like, oh, what a shitty day we're having. Or, oh, far out. Man, why is it the staff never do what we want them to do? You know, you will. So I personally do this a lot. I get myself in a habit of doing this constantly, as much as I can. Christine, I felt lightness and joy, and the rods broke and heaven opened and visions appear. Yeah, wow. Yeah, you're really opening up. So yeah, James, you just do it regularly. Max saw heaven opening. Yeah, well, I saw heaven opening too. So we've got some pretty great people in this group. We've got such a good mixture of really awakened, aware people. Natasha, it's still going. Unless the Lord builds a house, this is the other activation, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keeps a city, the watchmen watch in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for he gives his beloved sleep. So now that's about letting go. That's just about knowing that it's done. That's just knowing that it's done. Knowing that whatever manifestation you've given, unless the Lord, your higher mind, your higher unconscious, the Jesus power builds that house, you labor in vain when you try to build it in your own strength. I watched in astonishment my business just take off in the last 9 months. In all honesty, I worked my ass off with my old business, and it did well, but I worked hard. I'm already built a bigger group and a bigger list in 9 months in this work without really doing hardly any of the work I did before. So this is part of letting go. And when you let go and just keep, and the best way is a little tip for you with activation, is just daily giving thanks that it's done. Just give thanks daily that it's done. Just go, you know what, I give thanks that it's done. Any of these activation sequences I've given, just go with the ones that resonate with you right now. You'll find that maybe 1 or 2 or a few resonate with you. You don't have to do all of them. Just start with the ones I've given you, Robert. Don't go and get a big list. Just if you find 1 or 2 that resonate with you, just go with those. It's all you need to do. Watch it again and just find the 1, 2, 3, or 4. So yes, it's really retraining yourself. Okay, everyone. Amazing session. Thank you, Max. Yeah, I'm really pleased. I love it when I see people get great results and getting shifts. And then I'm looking forward. So next week, expect. And I said, I'm so in love. Yeah, look, and I'm expecting next week, go out expecting these things to happen. Expect them. Do it daily. Just give thanks for the money that's coming into your business daily or into your work. Just give thanks for the miracles that are happening. Give thanks for the small things in your life. When you see one of your children in a happier state than they've been yesterday, the day before, give thanks for it. Give thanks when you feel your health, when you see your health getting better. Give thanks if someone gives you a positive word. Just give thanks for everything. Trust me. Watch what happens over the course of this week. So I'll see all of you next week. Next week back to normal time on the Wednesday, 9 a.m. And yeah, those of you who feel led, come to the Sunday free one as well. That's a really good one. That's where we're covering some stuff. And then of course we've got the Dark Masters webinar. If you haven't signed up for that one, yeah, and you really desire to do some deeper clearing, then come along and let me know afterwards. Send us a message and clear up. Robert, about your auric clearing, I'll message you later on. So just send me a message if you're interested to know more about Dark Masters or auric clearing, because I'm getting a few messages on that coming through. Okay, thanks everyone. I'll see you next week. It's time for action, Mitch. Time to get moving, everyone. Look forward to what we hear the next 7 days. See you then.